There we are, back again here on Miami Total Football Radio, the show. As you guys can see or hear, well, Franco Panizo, one of the usual co-hosts, joined by the lovely Andrea Yanes, who I imagine is still fighting back tears after Honduras' elimination, a painful elimination at the hands of Mexico. And of course, before we get to all that, this is Miami Total Football Radio, the show. So, Andrea, we will start with the pleasantries, or maybe the not so pleasantries. This is your one chance on this week's pod to talk about Honduras, because I'm sure you have a lot to say. So, we'll just start really quickly. How are you doing? Are you still seething, boiling? ¿Está caliente aún?
I'm still mad. I'm still so mad. I'm still angry. I'm still very, very disappointed. Yes, sorry, Ajicita, que robo lo de ayer. Totally. Because listen, okay, Honduras lost. It was losing 1-0, but Honduras was eliminated Mexico, and the referee added 9 minutes. I don't know from where, but okay, those 9 minutes passed. And then he decided to add more. He added 13 minutes in total, and until Mexico equalized. So, and after the goal,
you guys still could have won on penalty kicks, though. Come on now.
Yeah, we could have won on penalty kicks, but it's not the same because we were winning. Imagine it is for me what happened. Even with what happened for me, it's something good for the players that they could take the game to penalties, because after what happened, I thought that they would lose in extra time, but they, even with a red card and all of what happened, they still went on to penalties, and in penalties a lot of of crazy things happened. Also, the referee made a player repeat the penalty 3 times. He missed it, and until he scored. And when the Mexican goalkeeper, when it was in the same situation, he went up front. He took his feet off the line. They didn't check it. They didn't go to VAR because, well, the thing was that Mexico had to go through. This is not something new in CONCACAF. Every team, Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, even Jamaica, everyone has lived through this. But I guess CONCACAF wants to make money with Copa America, and Mexico is the one that is going to sell all the stadiums, even more than Brazil and Argentina. So it is what it is. But I'm mad as hell. It was super disappointing to see.
I mean, it definitely doesn't look good. And then obviously we're starting with the international break because we're coming off of November's international window. Yeah, definitely.
And that is without taking into consideration the chance, the chance that you already know the word. Supposedly there is a protocol. They chanted, I counted 16 times, and the protocol dictates that for the third time, when they chant 3 times, the game has to end. And the referee didn't even stop the game because, of course, Mexico was losing. And it is what it is. It's so many things. Like, if you wanted to win on the field, they couldn't win on the field. They had 90 minutes and they couldn't. They won 1-0. They were winning 1-0. They couldn't score more goals. Then it should have ended like that. It should have ended like that. And the thing that bothers the most is that when you look at it from all of the angles, that and minutes, everything, that chant and everything that happens, that is when people get more mad, because if you have the protocols, then follow them. But it's all on the referee. And listen, since I knew who the referee
football is a business,
was,
Andrea. Football is a business, and like
when
you said,
I saw who the referee
was,
I knew what was going to happen. Yeah,
it doesn't look good when a place in the Copa America is on the line and Mexico is about to get knocked out, and then all these bizarre things start to happen. I mean, bizarre things happen in football games, right? In soccer matches, but I mean that many, with what was at stake and what the result was pointing at, I mean, it definitely doesn't look good for CONCACAF. But I mean, listen, there's corruption. There's always been talks about corruption when it comes to any of these governing bodies.
That's why
in
everyone
FIFA,
that was condenado, that was put on trial and sent to jail, was from CONCACAF or CONMEBOL, because we are the most corrupt.
I don't know that. Listen, Europe has their corruption as well. Africa and Asian have their corruption as well. but I mean, yeah, definitely doesn't look good.
Over
But
there, though, that Spain, that Germany, that every one of the big can lose. Here, they don't let Mexico lose. They don't let Mexico lose. So it is what it is,
I
and
mean, listen,
the
Honduras
thing
still
is
could have won the penalty kick shootout, Andrea. Let's leave it
that
there. Let's leave it
no,
there. No, no,
and
let's
the
leave it there.
penalties. What
No,
about
let's
the
leave it there.
penalties?
Let,
What about the
you
penalties?
you could have still made it, right? All right. So
But
anyway,
what? Why
I'm
didn't
not
they
gonna
check the
brag. I'm not
penalties?
gonna brag. I'm not gonna brag
Why
or
they
both because
didn't they check the
Peru is
penalties?
off to a terrible start in World Cup qualifying. Reynoso out is the mood in Peru right now. Fuera Reynoso. I heard it live in the stadium in Bolivia, which I had a great trip. For anybody that's curious how it was, very, very cool to go to the altitude in La Paz, the famed altitude. I almost made it out without any issue, but the last day in Bolivia, me dieron dolores. Yeah, I started having a bit of a stomach virus, a little bit of a stomach bug on the last day, and last few days haven't been as fun as a result. But I'm doing a little bit better. And yeah, La Paz, the altitude didn't hit me too much, which I was surprised by. But yeah, I definitely caught a stomach bug towards the end. But doing better, doing better. All right, Andrea, we've talked about the international break. I know you could go on and have a whole podcast talking about Honduras, which they're out. But anyway,
We're
let's
not
talk.
out.
Let's talk.
Sorry, we are going to a repesca. We're not. We're not still
Yeah,
out.
you're out of the immediate qualification. But talking about Inter Miami, there's a few things for us to discuss on this week's show. It's been a couple weeks since we've been on. We said we would be back on after the friendly against New York City FC that didn't come to pass. We won't really recap it because I don't think we learned a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot said after the game. Maybe we'll touch on it here at the end. But there are things to talk about with regards to Inter Miami. Chris Henderson spoke earlier this week, had his end of year press conference. Finally, por fin, we had an end of year press conference. And we'll talk about what he said or didn't say, as well as, of course, this match that's been reported as happening. Then Inter Miami came and refuted it, which is Inter Miami versus Al Nassr. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo's club team, for a match that was dubbed or that was being dubbed or is being dubbed, however you want to read the reports, as the last dance, which is essentially Messi versus Ronaldo one more time. So, I mean, let's start there because I think that's the newsiest item. Obviously, we've titled this Messi versus Ronaldo in the last dance. Is it real or is it rubbish, right? So reports came out earlier this week on Tuesday that Inter Miami would play Al Nassr in this match. And what is it called? The Riyadh Season Cup, but it would essentially be during MLS preseason next February. Inter Miami came out after those reports came out, refuting the entire thing and saying that that's not true and that any comments that were attributed to Jorge Mas were fabricated.
But they didn't say exactly that the game wouldn't happen. They said that the comments from Jorge Mas were not true.
Correct. Yeah. But they said they wouldn't be playing in the competition, if I'm not mistaken. So, Andrea, I mean, what do you make of all of it, right? What should we on the outside, in your opinion, what should we make of what we just saw, of what just happened with this news coming from the Middle East and then Inter Miami's response?
Listen, I think someone jumped the gun and published it, and Inter Miami got mad because they weren't the ones that said it, that let it be known. It was actually an advertiser for the match who published it on social media and created all the buzz. Then every reporter in Europe began saying it was true. And then Inter Miami came out with that statement saying that Jorge Mas didn't talk, that it was incorrect. But I think the negotiations are there, but Inter Miami, after all the China fiasco, want to manage everything themselves and everything on their terms, so that what happens depends on them and not what happened in China. They had to cancel after letting everyone know that they were going to play and canceled 2 days before, right? So that looks bad on a club. You look inexperienced. You look really bad. Even though they had a reason, they look bad because 2 days before they were supposed to travel, they canceled. So I guess that is what is happening here. That someone jumped the gun and let it be known that this match was going to take place. I think there are negotiations on going on, and I think the match is more likely to happen than not. But we'll see. We'll see. I think Inter Miami needs to take advantage of that opportunity. That part of the world is now investing in football a lot. There's a lot of money there, and of course, there's a lot of money in the Messi and Ronaldo. Everyone wants to see them play again, and everyone would like that game. And it makes sense that the game is played over there and not here because it would be a lot more interesting for people.
Okay, so let's look at the actual comment, or not the comment, the el comunicado, the press release from Inter Miami. All right, this came out on Tuesday in the hours after the reports came out. Earlier today, an announcement was issued stating that Inter Miami CF is scheduled to play in the Riyadh Season Cup. This is inaccurate. The release included statements attributed to team owner Jorge Mas. Mas has made no comments publicly or privately in relation to the preseason tour. Since day one, Inter Miami CF has set out to be a global brand. To this end, we have been in conversations to determine our 2024 preseason schedule. We look forward to showcasing our players on Inter Miami CF's first international tour, which will be announced in the coming weeks. All right.
You see, they don't say that that is, for me, that is just PR that try to get ahead of things, but that is a PR statement because they were very careful in not saying it's not true, we're not gonna go. Nowhere in there it says
no, but it says that they're it does say that they're not
it
playing
says
in the tournament.
No. This is inaccurate. Where does it say?
Okay, it's scheduled to play in the Riyadh Season Cup. Mm-hmm. This is inaccurate. That they're scheduled to play in it. They're saying it's inaccurate.
But it's that's not saying that they won't. They aren't. That's not saying. It's not the same to say that it's inaccurate. No.
Andrea,
no, it's not.
Okay, your read on it is definitely different than mine because what I'm reading there, it's pretty clear that they're
if they were not negotiations. If they are that's not what it says, Franco. If they were not in negotiations, they would have come out and said this whole thing is a mess. Instead, they throw a PR saying we are still planning our preseason tour. Stay tuned.
Exactly. So I'm with you that I think that match could be played and that it's likely to be played, right? That's just my sensation, not inside information, just my sensation from what we know. However, it's pretty clear they're saying if we're not scheduled to play in the Riyadh Season Cup, then that's inaccurate, that they don't intend to play in that cup. I think what's happening here, again, this is sensation, supposition. I think in the Middle East, they want Inter Miami to be part of that competition, that tournament, to help draw attention and sell tickets. Whereas Inter Miami, for their own purposes and their own reasons, maybe is like, look, we'll play that one friendly because it's going to make us some good pocket change. It's going to draw a lot of eyeballs, but we don't want to be part of the whole competition because we have to plan for our season and do other travel arrangements.
Let it be said that is not an official tournament. That is a friendly tournament.
Correct.
It's like the Copa Joan Gamper, Emirates Cup for Arsenal, so Trofeo Santiago Bernabeu. It's a friendly. It's not a real competition.
Correct.
Just so that people know.
But that's how I perceive it. I perceive it as one side trying to be like, all right, well, let's try to bend Inter Miami's arm to join into this competition that we want them in, this preseason tournament, whatever. And Inter Miami's like, no, we'll play that one game, but that's it. I mean, that's just how I perceive it. Let's listen to Chris Henderson. This is one of the comments he made in his press conference that he had with us on Monday in the 2023 wrap-up season availability. So listen to Chris Henderson on the preseason tour. This was a question by our beloved Island Jose, a.k.a. Cinco, a.k.a. Jose Armando, who is not in the building once again this week. But he'll be back soon. I hope. Honestly, I think he's probably shedding some tears under his pillow still about last night. But anyway, all right, this is Chris Henderson on the preseason plans.
Yeah, preseason, this summer window, I really felt like overnight we became a global club. Eyes all over the world are watching what we're doing. And what comes with that are these tours and preseason opportunities that we have as a club. So we're working closely with the front office as they negotiate some of those preseason tours. We have met with Tata and his staff, and there's certain dates that we want to have games that we can prepare properly for the first game of the season and for CCC as we start that in February. So I think those are important preparations, and making sure we have the right preparation on the field, training, and the right preparation in games, getting us ready for the year.
Okay.
So it's very interesting that he says tournaments. What tournaments are available at that time in the year?
I mean, there's always different types of tournaments, Andrea.
That time of the year in February, Andrea, while everyone is playing.
There's been tournaments here in the United States. They played in the Carolina Challenge Cup. Don't forget that.
The US doesn't count, man. It's not really football.
No. Okay. Listen. They have options, right? And like at one point, he was asked to follow up on one of the topics about preseason, and he said he pointed to Xavier Asensi, who is the lead official, the lead executive on the more commercial side, the business side. So clearly, again, we've said this before, so we'll reiterate it here. Inter Miami for preseason in 2024 is going to be juggling priorities of not only from the sporting side, but also the business side and commercial side and making money side. So an economic side. So we'll see where they land. We'll see what happens. Again, I think like you that this match, Messi versus Ronaldo, I think that will happen. I think that will come to pass when all is said and done. But we'll see. We'll see how Inter Miami manages its preseason, because Chris Henderson later in that press conference did confirm that there have been talks about that match versus Newell's, right? Which we've heard about for weeks, if not months now. Which again, I think we both expect to happen. Andrea, you and I expect that game to happen. And I think that would be the match the week before the MLS regular season starts in late February. So let's stay tuned. I think the match happens. So do you. But a lot still probably to be figured out in terms of financial terms, in terms of who gets what dates, how it's going to happen.
To see if Apple TV can have the rights here, at least in the United States, and not that, because Saudi League has its own, the rights are owned here in Open TV, in cable TV and Open TV. So that's one of the hurdles that I think is happening with this tournament, with this match. But listen, everyone wants to see it, because even though Cristiano and Messi are in leagues that in the world don't count footballistically, people still care about what they do, what they score. You see Messi scores with Inter Miami, it goes viral. Ronaldo scores with Al Nassr, it goes viral. So this is something intelligent.
You said everyone wants to see it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to see it. I don't know if I want to see it. I'm just being honest. I'm not even trying to be devil's advocate. I honestly don't know if I care to see Messi and Ronaldo in a glorified friendly that's pretty much just for marketing purposes.
Just because whoever wins
is going to be contractually written that they both have to score a goal in this game.
Whoever wins, everyone will say, "Oh, Saudi League is better than MLS," or "Oh, MLS is better than the Saudi League." So it's that kind of noise that really both leagues need. So you only get that if you play Cristiano against Messi, because that's the rivalry. But listen, let me tell you, that thing with the marketing department that came out with the Last Dance. Listen, Michael Jordan, right? Must be very mad, because now everything is labeled The Last Dance after the documentary came out. So I remember when they played in the Champions League, Juventus and PSG, the last dance. So this is going to keep on going, because they are the two most influential players of this century. So it is what it is. It's going to happen. And I think Inter Miami needs to be intelligent, needs to grow their brand, not only in Latin America, because in Latin America they are already big. They have Messi. and they need to grow their brand, grow globally. That is how you make money, being
Of
a
course.
global brand. So
Of
I think
course.
this is an opportunity that they should take advantage.
Of course, I agree with
Yeah.
that wholeheartedly. But I'm just saying, me as a neutral, as a soccer
Yeah. No, I
spectator,
get it. I
I
get
mean,
it. We all would
I
know.
don't.
Listen, we're gonna be here talking about like, oh, whatever. It's a friendly. It won't be different than that New York City game, in the fact that footballistically it's
It
not
means
going to
nothing. It
matter.
means nothing,
But
right?
it will be interesting to see Cristiano and
Oh
Messi
yes,
like,
I can't wait to see our X mentions about Messi pwned Ronaldo or Ronaldo pwned Messi, because
exactly.
from the fans of each player.
Exactly.
I'm
Like,
looking
it's
very much forward
really
to that.
amazing. It amazes me how anything that Cristiano and Messi do, these accounts exist only to follow whatever Messi and Cristiano. I always see in social media videos like Messi went to eat to Chipotle, let's say, and it's a whole video and with thousands and millions of views, and then Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina went to eat to whatever restaurant and it's a million views. Listen, they are the two most influential people, I dare say, in the world. So it will be intelligent for both teams. Both teams would be benefited from this, and not only them. The thing is that when you have two stars like that, it's really difficult to. It's not
Is it no?
the
I
team,
understand. Is it real? Okay, you said
not
about the
the
team.
team,
It's beneficial for the team,
for
sure.
the teams, but for them, each
MLS, is it
one wants to
beneficial? Is
be
it beneficial for
more.
MLS? Would it be beneficial for MLS? Because yes,
I
you're
don't
gonna get
know
a
for
lot of
MLS.
you're gonna get a lot of eyeballs, a lot of attention. You'll get
Exactly.
money, but it is still a game. It's a
Exactly.
preseason game, so intensity
Exactly.
won't be the highest. It's not gonna be the most competitive game ever.
Yeah.
But if if Inter Miami loses this game, then everyone's going to
Exactly.
say the Saudi league is better than
Oh, that is what I was telling you.
MLS. That Al Nassr is much better than Inter Miami. Like, so from an
Exactly.
MLS standpoint, I mean,
It's risky.
you're gonna gain something, but you can also very much lose something here. I mean, listen, again, for Inter Miami, you do it, you're gonna make money. You know, you don't really
And
care about
another thing that
MLS's
is
perception
important to
overall,
mention,
but
Franco, is that this is going to be in February, not at the beginning, but in the middle of February. Inter Miami um, would have to go to the other side of the world, play this, then
correct.
play against Newells, then play the first week in MLS, and then play against whoever their rival in the Champions League is. So
Champions
you
Cup, Andrea. Champions Cup. Say it right.
Champions Cup, whatever. I'm mad at CONCACAF. I'm gonna call it whatever the hell I want. I'm joking, but yeah, the Champions Cup. So they need to be extra careful with those dates. And as Cada says, preseason for Inter Miami, yes, and Al Nassr is in season, exactly. So it's really, if you looked at it as a marketing opportunity, it's a no-brainer. But as Chris Henderson was saying, you have to look at it also from the football side of things, because then you go play with Al Nassr the 15th or something like that. You play Newells then in at home. You play your home opener in MLS, and then you have to travel to whichever place you are going to play in the Caribbean or in Central America or in Mexico. It's gonna be tough. This team has not adjusted to those traveling dates in this season, and when you do it at the beginning of the year, it's even more difficult. So they have to really think about that preseason calendar. It's very important, and it will shape what their season looks like.
So we'll see how Chris Henderson and the sporting side do against the commercial side. Because again, those are normally one trumps the other. We'll see which trumps which this preseason. Again,
And
normally
Franco,
it's more
another
sporting
thing,
than commercial. This time the commercial side is going to be right there neck and neck with the
yes,
sporting side because
definitely.
of Messi and everything that's going on. Obviously, the match against Newells. I mean, that's already an example right there. Yes, it's cool international test for Inter Miami. It'll be played at home, so a bit more in a comfortable setting before the start of the season. But clearly, there's a reason it's Newells, right? So commercial reasons, marketing reasons, business reasons, cosas extra deportivos come into play there. So, all right, let's quickly switch gears. I don't think it's going to be a long pod because there's not a whole lot to talk about, but we do have to talk about Chris Henderson's end of year press conference in general. And I will start by saying something that you, Jose, and I said after the press conference ended in our famed and beloved private WhatsApp chat that we have, the Miami Total Football Radio WhatsApp chat that has a hilarious picture that we will one day tell you guys about. Our photo in our WhatsApp group is there's a cool and interesting and humorous backstory too, but we won't share it just yet. Maybe we'll wait till 2024 for the listeners to know what that picture is. But there is a funny story there. By the way, speaking of funny, Kada in the comment section says, AKA never finished the season in Football Manager Jose. That's another nickname for Jose Armando. Absolutely. Shout out to Kada. Shout out to all the viewers and listeners tuning in live or post production. So, Andrea, this is what we said in that WhatsApp group right after that press conference. Chris Henderson spoke a lot, but said very little. We didn't come away from that press conference knowing a whole lot more than beforehand, right? There was not anything really shared there that we didn't already know. There were little nuggets here and there, but Chris Henderson, who's a smart guy, covers his bases, makes sure he doesn't give anything away or tries not to give anything away. Professional.
Listen.
He's
a professional, like you said. He's a professional, especially a professional in MLS, because this is sometimes when you get another sporting director, you can get something. You get a little bit of, when you ask about a player, you get a little bit of spice, and you said, "Oh yeah, we're calling. We like him. He's a great player." But with Chris Henderson, he's very MLS-y. And to tell you the truth, we didn't even get to know if he's going to continue with Inter Miami or not. Because he doesn't. His contract runs out on December 31.
But he said that he's working with his staff for next year.
Yeah, he's working with his staff next year. But he didn't say he signed a contract.
That's fine.
He couldn't even say that. He might not
have signed it.
I understand what you're saying, but he couldn't. What I mean is he couldn't even say that. He couldn't even say, yes, we're negotiating, we're going to sign in 2 weeks. He couldn't even say that. All of us think or know that he's going to continue, but he couldn't even say that. That's what I'm telling you. He couldn't even say that
because he's probably still negotiating to get the best deal possible for himself. But the fact that he said,
then he should have said that. We're negotiating.
My staff and I are planning for next year. I mean, they're coming back. It's just a matter of coming to terms on the dollar sign. But he's going to
listen. I've seen a lot of people, even in MLS and leagues here in the United States of America, that these things happen and they leave. After all, they end up leaving. It happened right now here in Miami with the Marlins, that you expected the GM to stay, and she left.
Andrea, it's MLS-y. You said it earlier. It's MLS-y. It's a very MLS thing. Yes, in other sports, listen, if you have not paid me, then you know what? I'm not working for you until you pay me what I want or until we come to terms. I'm not working an extra day unless you like. But it's an MLS. It's a very MLS.
Yeah, it's an MLS. But what I mean is that this press conference, Chris couldn't even tell us that he is negotiating that, or maybe he could have said a signature is missing. We're negotiating. He just said what you said, but not even to answer that question. He just said like, yeah, we're working on it. I keep doing my work the same. But he didn't even let us know that he was negotiating, that yes, and all of that. So it's to show people that this press conference was very MLS-y, very like that. We couldn't even get a straight answer that, as we know, Chris Henderson is negotiating his deal to continue with Inter Miami.
So, like, the overall point is that we didn't learn a whole lot from this press conference, right? Mm-hmm. He said that, you asked about Leandro Gonzalez-Pires and Emerson Rodriguez, who are on loan at River Plate and Santos Laguna, respectively. They will be set to return unless their buy options are triggered by those foreign clubs. All he said is that they'll be talking, they're in talks, and
nothing more.
Exactly. Like, it could be purchased. They might not be purchased. No, listen, yeah. I like Chris Henderson as a sporting director. I think he's done a good job with one hand tied behind his back. I think his track record in MLS shows that he's good at what he does. Next year will be the first year that he really has a full deck of cards to to show off what he can do and how he moves pieces and what pieces he can sign within a full MLS salary budget. So for Inter Miami fans, I think that's something to be excited about because Chris Henderson, this is where Chris Henderson gets a chance to shine. However, when it comes to publicly talking, he's so reserved and so careful and so walks the fine line that you get very little. In this press conference, I mean, we could have, although we wanted it, right? We were clamoring for it because we wanted to give fans, listeners, viewers, we wanted to give them news. I mean, there was not much to get out of this whole thing, right? And I think the questions were fair, and I think there were decent questions that we could have gotten more out of them. But Chris Henderson just chose not to say a whole lot. Like I asked him, how much change should we expect in the roster, right? Because when this coaching change was made in the middle of the season, Phil Neville was let go, and they brought in Tata Martino. At that point, Chris Henderson initially said, we have a team good enough to be winning these games. They went on to win Leagues Cup. They made the Open Cup final. But in league play, they went from 15th to 14th. They didn't make a big jump. So how much change can we expect? And Chris didn't give a response. He's like, we're always busy. And he tried to avoid it at first. I followed up, le hice la repregunta, le planteé la repregunta, and he still was like, we're busy every offseason. And he didn't give a whole lot. Now, look, no. I get that on his part, and he did kind of, reading between the lines, say indirectly that, he said directly that there's teams that are asking for Inter Miami players and trades, and they're figuring all that out. So I get that he doesn't want to show his hand because he wants to get as much as he can from the other teams, and that is ultimately his job, right? To do the best in terms of building a roster for Inter Miami. However, with that said, this press conference then was unnecessary because, again, we did not learn almost anything that we didn't already know. So press conference was a bit
I've said in this show
redundant.
I've said it in this show that I think Leandro Gonzalez Pires is coming back because he doesn't play in River Plate. They're not going to pay him $3 million to buy him. And I said also that I think Emerson could leave because he has played every game in these two seasons with Santos Laguna seasons because they play Apertura and Clausura in Mexico, and he has played every game for Santos. So that's a given. And he just said the same thing to me when I asked him, it's Leandro. And then he said, when Emerson, he said, he has played every game and he has been there. So we all knew that. And then when someone asked about Luis Suarez, the same thing. He's a Gremio player, blah, 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 blah. Then when Jose asked about preseason, blah, blah, we're going to the answer that we just heard a couple of minutes ago. And when you ask him about being able to operate without sanctions for the first year after the team was created, also very, very coy. So we didn't get that much. And I think that is why we got Chris Henderson and we didn't get Jorge Mas, because the last time, you remember when I asked him about Tomas Avilés, about Facundo Farias, and he went on and said, we're signing them now. And I asked about Diego Gomez. He told me he is here, and he revealed a lot of stuff without even having the contract signed yet. So I guess they are now very careful with that because press conference,
Jorge Mas is
in that same press conference
very outspoken.
Luis Suarez. So he got in trouble because Luis Suarez had a contract with Gremio, and Gremio came out and said, okay, if Inter Miami is talking to Luis Suarez, we're going to sue, blah, blah, blah. So I think that is the reason we didn't get Jorge Mas. We got Chris Henderson, and Chris Henderson was very guarded, very coy, and very
diplomatic,
reserved.
Chris Henderson could run for governor in Florida if he runs press conferences, or if he could do things as well as he runs those press conferences. I mean, if that's anything to judge by, he could be in politics for sure.
He really could, because we didn't, and we tried. Listen, we tried. You tried, I tried, Jose tried, Michelle tried, everyone that was there asked him a question, even from the Zoom. And we couldn't even get something about Messi. So it is what it is. Listen, it's really, we really pushed for this. I want people to know we pushed for this because every team in MLS that was eliminated before the playoffs did this. the day after they were eliminated, and every playoff team that was eliminated in the first round did this the day after they were eliminated. And with Inter Miami, we got it months after they were eliminated, a month and a week after they were eliminated. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, we couldn't get enough information for you guys, but we will always be there. We will be finding out stuff and
we'll do our best. We'll do our
letting you know.
best. Hopefully,
Yes.
we have a little more help from the other side in future instances. No, listen, I get it. Interesting time of year for Inter Miami. Again, Henderson's trying to do his job the best he can, trying not to give too much away, trying to get as much as he can in potential trades, trying to squeeze as much juice out of the lemon, out of the orange. So I get why he's trying to max out and be reserved. But again, then we didn't need to have a press conference because it just didn't really do a whole lot for us and for the general public. But anyways, some of the stuff he did say that I guess we could touch on here is about the type of players that Inter Miami may be signing this offseason, right? Because we know about Suarez, right? Despite Chris Henderson's best attempts to be diplomatic there. We know about I guess it's about Suarez. But I mean, Costa did ask about Dixon Arroyo, and he said that they didn't take his option, but they're still in talks and negotiations. So they're open to bringing him back. It's one of the newsier revelations from the press conference. They're open to bringing him back, but clearly they want to do it at a lower number than what that option would have had him at. So we'll see if Dixon Arroyo comes back.
I don't think he's coming back. I think he can find a better pay in another MLS team.
No, but it doesn't work that way because then you have to get traded or you have to get the rights. Listen, Dixon Arroyo probably really liked, I imagine, I don't know, but he probably really liked South Florida. Likes playing alongside Messi. I don't think he did a bad job for what he was asked. I think he fulfilled his function.
It was an important part of that, of Sergio Busquets getting into a team, yeah.
Su función. I thought he did a good job at what he was asked to do. But
I think it's going to be like Pozuelo, something like Pozuelo, that he's not getting signed because he doesn't want to take less money.
I think, again, at this point, it's all negotiations. I think Dixon Arroyo will be back. No inside information, just my hunch. I think we'll see Dixon Arroyo back. I think it just makes sense for him and for Inter Miami. Now, if Inter Miami's lowballing him completely, then maybe he walks. But if I had to bet, if I was a betting man, I think Dixon Arroyo returns in 2024. But again, that's just my hunch. Chris Henderson did talk about the type of players. And he talked about how Inter Miami has very experienced players and some really young players. But then he talked about, he used his hands just like this, he talked about the middle part of a roster and constructing a team. Let's listen to Chris Henderson on the types of players Inter Miami may be bringing or maybe looking to bring this winter.
So I think that, experience at the top and young players coming through. And it may be now when you look at the age distribution of our roster that maybe in the middle now, some of those players in their mid-20s who have experience in our league could be added to help with that balance between the two.
Oh, you know what I'm going to say, right? Players like...
You better not say Roberto. I already gave you your Honduras platform at the beginning.
Players like who? I'm going to say Romel Kyoto, Alejandro Bedoya, Chicharito Hernandez, who all have MLS experience.
Andrea, he just said 20. He said in their mid-20s. You just named 30 and above players. You just named players that are 30 and above. Stop it. They're looking for younger players that can fit that middle of the roster. They're going to have the legs that can
but not young like Farias. They're looking for 25 to 30 years old.
25 to 29 that can put you through the grind of the season. Right, but they can grind through the busy parts of the season when Messi needs a rest, when Busquets needs a rest, when Suarez will need a rest, when Alba's going to need a rest. Who are the players who have some experience, right? You're not talking about Noah Allen, David Ruiz, Benjamin Kremaski, who are young, who have those energetic legs, but don't have a lot of experience. So who is that next tier in terms of age and development that can grind through an MLS season, that have the legs, but that give you a little bit more composure, a little bit more experience, a little bit more of know-how, jerarquía, as we say in Spanish.
Lodeiro, Bedoya, Kyoto, Chicharito.
Andrea, he said 20 somethings. You keep going to these 30-plus-year-old players. Stop it. I mean, just think about it. Like, I mean, I'm just throw a name out there of a 20-something-year-old that could help this team. Just throw a name out there.
30-year-old from
20-year-old, 25 to 29.
Oh,
there's so many players in the league.
A lot of players, including players that they let go already. They could use a center back like Andres Reyes. They could use a center back like that. They could really use another a type of winger. They need.
Just a name out there, and this is again just a name for an exercise sake. This is just for
Polarriola. You were going to say Polarriola.
I was going to say Polarriola. How did I was going to say Polarriola? How did you know that?
Because he's a winger who is 30 and plays in MLS.
He's 20. How did you know that I was talking about Polarriola? I was like, sure.
I really like Polarriola. Andrea,
very good though. I was impressive how in sync we were there because that's
Polarriola, Fafa. I would also like Fafa Picot. Polarriola. There are a lot of players I would really like to see Inter Miami, especially in that attacking sense, because I think Facundo Farias is really good. Robert Taylor is really good, but I don't think they are ready to last.
32, by the way. Fafa's 32.
Fafa is 32. Okay. Polarriola is 30, right?
28. That's why I looked it up because I was like, let me see how old he is before I put my foot in my mouth.
They could also use some. Well, I was going to say Arias, but I think Arias is also 30, right? From Cincinnati, Santiago.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a good get. A good get for MLS. But players like that, and I agree with Chris Henderson that they need, because in moments during the season, Kremaski, David, Noah Allen were not enough for Inter Miami to get to the playoffs, and they need that extra set of help. They are going to get all those injured players that they had last year, with like Negri, who was very good at the beginning of the season, and they're gonna get Coco back also, who is a winger, striker, and whatever. But I think they need to deepen that, especially those wingers. They need to look for wingers that are experienced in MLS and that are good in MLS, that have been good in MLS.
I don't know if we're going to see the likes of Coco back, so Christoph back. And I don't know if we'll see them back. They could be traded, they could be sold.
I really like Stefanelli, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of them coming back.
Yeah, so we'll see. Again, it's all still
supposition.
To be determined.
Right now it's all what can we do is that when they get Luis Suarez finally, when Luis Suarez signs, I think we can see begin to see how this roster is going to build up. But I'm going to tell people, because people have asked me, is David De Gea coming? Is Ivan Rakitic coming? Is Sergio Roberto coming? Listen, they cannot all come. I'm sorry to tell people, because some people that are getting into Inter Miami because of Messi don't know the rules, but it's impossible for Inter Miami to get all of these players. They're not getting De Gea, they're not getting Sergio Roberto, they're not getting Ivan Rakitic, along with Luis Suarez, Messi, Busquets, because it's, unless MLS changes the rules and they allow 5 DPs in each team, that cannot happen. If they do change the rules, then that could happen. I was really also pleased to see that someone asked Chris Henderson about Drake Callender, because it wouldn't make sense to me to bring a player even as good as De Gea is, if you already have a starting goalkeeper like Drake Callender that you can sell in the future.
Unless you're planning to sell him now. Unless you're planning to sell high. But
yes, exactly. But we have not seen that. I think he's missing a little bit of national team experience still, so that he can move on from MLS. He will move in the future, but it wouldn't be intelligent for him. Yeah, exactly. But listen, so there's gonna be a lot of rumors, especially with people. I even heard Modric is coming to Inter Miami, and I was like, okay, well, how are they going to pay him? But
Listen, I asked Chris Henderson about them having no sanctions, right?
No sanctions. He's gonna be able to work. They are gonna bring a lot of players, I'm sure of that. But Luis Suarez is going to take one of the positions that they are going to be able to get with sanctions. So that is why I think it's important. And we've heard Chris Henderson and Tata Martino saying that they want players with MLS experience to bring people to reality.
But Chris Henderson's overall remark about what positions they could look at. He said, "Well, we need." He kind of said, "We need to fortify or strengthen." I'm paraphrasing here. We need to strengthen the attack and scoring goals. We also have to stop letting up goals. So I mean that's the most generic,
yes,
obvious response. Yes, we need players that can help us score goals, and we need players that can help us stop goals. I mean,
Yes.
for Inter Miami that works because yes, they didn't score enough and they gave up too much. But I mean, there wasn't a whole lot there. I mean, if we're just analyzing the situation, right? Campana and Suarez are your two striker options. You could have a third one there that's reliable. It's going to play some minutes here and there, but I mean, obviously, if it's a third string striker,
Chicharito.
there's going to be there's only a certain level of striker you're going to be able to get. I mean, or invest your money into. So you're probably going to invest more money on the wingers, maybe another number 10. Like a backup number 10, obviously nowhere near the level of what Messi's going to be able to do. Bedoya's not a 10. Bedoya's not a 10. Not even in FIFA is Bedoya.
I'm just bothering you.
But I do think they'll look for wingers and a potential 10 to help when Messi is out. Someone creative, because I think that's what Inter Miami, if you watch the games this year, you could tell that when he wasn't on the field, they didn't really have a creative player. Facundo Faria showed moments, but not enough. So
but
I think
he showed that he's not a 10.
Right. I think you need a backup 10 for the stretch run of this season, for the dog days of summer. There's a whole bunch of competitions, and for Inter Miami to function as a team, probably not at the same level as when Messi's going to be there, but you need a 10 because this team was very poor when Messi wasn't there. They had no creativity or very little creativity, no one that could pass between the lines, no one that was feeding the strikers. So I do think that a 10 and wingers are what's being looked at, as well as probably a center back, another center back, and I would probably say a right back. I don't. Again, this is not inside information, but I've said for several weeks now, I think DeAndre Yedlin's days in Inter Miami are numbered, especially if you take. If you really want to hone in on Chris Henderson's comment of we got to stop letting goals in the back. Well, I mean, one player is not going to help just make that massive difference. You're going to need another player or two. So I think DeAndre Yedlin defensively doesn't give you a whole lot. Struggles, more reactionary than reading the game type of player. So I think his days for what Tata Martino wants, I think his days are numbered because of what Tata Martino wants. But we'll see. We'll see how the season plays out. Andrea, there's not a whole lot more.
I think what he said about Leagues Cup, what he said to me about Leagues Cup was interesting because I think we can expect that the competition is going to be played, but we can expect changes on it because of everything that happened this year and everything that was going on during the tournament. And I really liked his response because he said, "Oh, we're always working." He was that response was one of the ones that I thought he was more sincere in, saying that they were working on ways to make the tournament better and to make it work better. So I think we can expect to see a different Leagues Cup next year.
All right. Well, let's start wrapping it up here. We can definitely keep this shorter than usual by saying, I mean, the only thing I'll say that we took away from that match, the Inter Miami NYCFC end of year, Noche de Or friendly, was that Inter Miami lost the game 2-1, just for recap's sake. The lone goal from Inter Miami came from Robbie Robinson, who, by the way, I've criticized him a lot, but I got to give him his props because that was a very nice left-footed finish that he hit there off the inside of the far post. A very sweet finish. If he did that more consistently and in games where there's pressure, I mean, he could
In
definitely
the same
be
game,
an
he had
impact
Messi
player in
open and
MLS.
Campana open, and he didn't give them the ball. So
But it was a preseason. I mean, preseason. This was a friendly, glorified exhibition. I mean,
Robbie
the
Robinson is one of those players Inter Miami needs to use to get a trade for a better one.
oh, I mean, I agree with you, but it was a good finish. So I give him his props with left foot. Again, it's a game that doesn't have pressure, doesn't mean anything, but it was a nice finish. I give him that because I've criticized him a lot for not having a left foot at all, and in this one, he showed a good finish. Again, albeit in a match that doesn't mean a whole lot. The only thing I'll say that we could really take away from it here is just the underlying of what I think is going to be Tata Martino going with a back five in 2024. Yes, there's going to be games I think that they'll play a 4-4 at the back, a 4-man defense, a 4-man backline, cuatro atrás. But I think the preferred look, at least that will be the plan, in my opinion, is that they will go with 5 at the back because they gave up 2 goals. They struggled with the counters. And Tata, again, post-game said along the lines of like, oh, yes, this shows once again that when we play with 5 at the back, that it serves us better because it helps us close out the spaces. And if I'm not mistaken, when he finished up with Atlanta, when they won MLS Cup and then he left, they were playing with 5 at the back at that time, 3 center backs, 2 wing backs. So I think that that's going to be the route, the direction Inter Miami goes with in terms of their initial roster build here this offseason and in terms of what they do, with the next signings, right? Again, I think Sergio Christoph is not long for Inter Miami, not because he's not good. I do think he had some very good games and was very important, but they need someone speedier, someone that's able to put out more fires with the spaces in behind that Inter Miami concedes because Inter Miami pushes numbers forward. They like to pin you in your own half, but that leaves acres of space in behind. So, a long ball over the top can quickly expose Inter Miami. A through ball in behind one defender can quickly expose Inter Miami. So you need someone with speed who can help try to put out those fires. Speed and aggressiveness, but probably need a little bit more speed than aggressiveness. So we'll see. But I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from the game. It just underlined the fact that Inter Miami, to me, is likely to go with a back 5 next year.
Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible, especially because they tried the back 4 and it didn't work. Even the back 5 didn't work in so many games because even though the team attacks a lot more, they are still leaving many spaces in the back when Jordi Alba and Yedlin attack and go forward. So I really don't like the back 5 because with the players that they had available this year, maybe if they bring another center back with different characteristics, I could see it. But for me, they could look with Gregory back. They could look at something like having Gregory cover for the defenders. But then again, we could see Leandro Gonzalez Pires come back, and Leandro Gonzalez Pires was part of that back 5 line in Atlanta, who were the champions in 2018. Yes, he's older, but he hasn't played a lot. But he is a player that Tata Martino knows very well, and also is a player that could work very well with Tomas Avilés, Ryan Saylor, if he stayed, who are young center backs that can learn from him, and that could be very good with Kamal Miller, who I think is the one that has the most possibilities to be a starter next year. That will be a starter next year from players that they got this 2023. But
I'm not opposed to Gonzalez Pires, but I think they need someone with a little more pace. I think they need someone.
What I don't like, he doesn't have pace, and what I don't like, he is very
temperamental.
I
don't mind.
Like
that doesn't bother me.
I remember the year he spent here, he was a lot of fighting, even with his own teammates. So Inter Miami doesn't need a lot of that, but it also could be good for the young players. So we'll see what Tata Martino decides. He's a player that he likes, so we'll see what happens. And with wingers, they really need to get some MLS experience to bring wingers that could work with them, that could make this team better, especially when all those other players are going to their national teams. It's going to be interesting. This preseason is going to be interesting how Inter Miami builds up, brings players, because as also Chris Henderson said, a lot of players now want to come to Inter Miami because they want to play with Messi, right? So it could be a lot easier to negotiate contracts with them. And for me, it will really be a good prueba to see if their investments in the young guys like Diego Gomez and Facundo Farias really turn out to be good. Like, we need to see those players turn out to be good, like those other signings we've seen from South America that have turned
Chris
good
did say
in MLS.
that year 2, and I agree with this.
Yeah.
Year 2 is when those players
It is when those players,
better
exactly,
form, because they're more adjusted to the
they
league,
need to
life.
step up. They need to step up. Diego Gomez needs to step up, and Facundo Farias needs to be more consistent in every game, not just glimpses of him. And I think that will come.
Plenty of time to talk about that here
Yes.
this offseason, because
Yes.
there's plenty of weeks, there's plenty of changes, there's plenty of shows to come. So let's leave it there for this week. We finished within an hour, which is what I was hoping for. So I don't know if we'll be back next week, because we need to wait until there's a little more meat on the bones, a little more tangible stuff to sink our teeth into. So we'll leave it there. No final thoughts of Andrea complaining about CONCACAF and crying about Honduras.
Happy Thanksgiving is my final thought.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say here as we wrap up. Now, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. This is Thanksgiving Eve when we're going live and recording here. But thankful for Andrea, thankful for Jose, thankful for Simon, thankful for the entire team here at Miami Total Football Radio for putting together a heck of a year. A lot of content, a lot of disagreements, discussions, headaches from Andrea's takes. Just kidding, Andrea. But no, in all seriousness, thank you guys for the hard work. Thank you guys, of course, listeners, viewers, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you guys. We try to do as good of a job for you as possible. We are just a vehicle for you guys to get your thoughts into the team and give you responses from the team back to you. That's essentially all we do. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a good 2023. It's not over yet. There'll still be some things to come, but enjoy your Thanksgiving with your friends, with your family. Enjoy some downtime, relax, unwind. We will try to do the same, and we will be back soon, although I don't know when just yet. Next time, we'll try to give you more of a heads up that we're recording a show. So, all right. For Andrea Yanes, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to Miami Total Football Radio. If you haven't already, give us a like, give us a share, spam that subscribe button, and we will talk to you guys again very, very soon.